All right, guys, another one, DP Deconstruct. I have no idea what episode we're on. 8, maybe?
I'm not even going to try.
Yeah, anyway. So we're actually going to do an actual deconstruct.
Yes.
So, Matt, why don't you, I guess first off, this is a shoot that Matt was solo on this shoot.
Yep.
I wasn't able to be there for this. This is for a project we did for SHOT Show 25. And there was three scenes that Matt shot. I wasn't able to be there that night. I don't remember what I was doing, but I wasn't able to be there. And so we thought it would be fun to see if I could break down what Matt did in his shot. So Matt, why don't you kind of give us, without telling us what you did, give us some backstory on kind of what you were thinking and whatever
Sure.
behind this shot.
Well, first of all, the project was it was a fun project. We got to, I wasn't solo on the entire project, just happened to be this night.
shot, yeah.
And we were on time restriction. We were waiting for cameras to come in the mail for Spy Point trail cameras. Mm-hmm. They were, this was a new product launch that we were fortunate to get to partake in that video and just partner with. And so ton of fun. But we knew that a lot of it was going to be like, hey, this is outdoors. There were other things that were involved, and time was running short. And so I was like, hey, we need to get moving on a couple things. And so we went ahead to move forward on this. And so we with this project, we knew we're not going to be able to control every shot, but the shots that we could wanted it to look really nice and good. And so we went into it with going, hey, we want to, have a scene where they're getting ready for season. They're preparing the bow. It's kind of this idea of work smarter, not harder kind of mentality. And so we wanted to show like, hey, we're prepping, we're putting the time in to get ready. And so the first shot we're looking at is actually a shot of a shop. And this shop, you would never guess what it actually looked like if you look at this shot. But we walked in. This is the area. I knew the space was a good space, but it was like, hey, light, this entire thing, how are we going to do it? And so, everything's modern. It's LED lighting. It's, kind of just really, really bright. And so the whole idea was to bring this in to make it feel more intimate shop setting type of mentality. And so this first shot is kind of an establisher of that, of him working on a bench on the bow. And so we had to take this LED well-lit shop and turn it into something that looked a little bit more intriguing in regards to video. And so that is the clip we're looking at, and we'll probably play the clips in full so you can at least see it. But we're using a Dana Dolly here, and a ton of fun, good-looking shot. But so this is the shot. Okay,
so what I would, I guess how I'll do it first is I'll go through it the way I would light a scene. In the format that I would go through a scene. So the first thing I'm going to do is basically your rim lights. So what I see, and I'm kind of cheating here. I know that you used our lights, and there wasn't any light that was being used that was already there. Like you're not using an ambient house light. That much I already know. And so I know obviously you ran Pavo tubes in the shop lights, and it's
how would you guess?
Yeah. Well, I also know we've done it before. So right here I'm going to go ahead and circle this right here. I would start, this is kind of in my mind acting as a rim light, right? Because if you just had nothing but this light on, you're going to be very silhouetted and everything else is going to be dark. We usually start with rim lights. So I know that you had these Pavo tubes kind of lighting that back wall. And you had this is kind of like your motivated light for a lot of what's going on. So I guess a question I have that I don't know, and this is something that would be a good question to start off. Do you remember what Kelvin your camera was at? Like what Kelvin you're shooting this at? This looks to me like it's like 38-ish.
Yeah, I was going to say right around 4,000 is what I remember off the top of my head. I don't, remember what the camera was actually set at.
Okay, so because you have a lot of tungsten here in the sides. So I would guess that you probably have these Pavo tubes sitting around 4,500 Kelvin. Obviously, you probably don't remember exactly, but you'll know like the thought behind what you were doing. So I would guess that these Pavo tubes were sitting at like 45, maybe 44, and your camera is probably I'm going to say 4,200 based on the color that you have going everywhere else. So from there, am I on so far?
I would say you're close. There's a couple little things different, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, within a couple hundred.
Okay. So the next thing that I know, let me erase these numbers. The next thing that I would notice would be you're going to be shooting light through the window. Now the light, so we have the window here by the deer. There is no light coming in there. So I can pretty comfortably say you probably aren't having any light shining through that window. But the window that the talent is facing, you have a somewhat soft light source coming through the window, and it's warmer. So I'm going to guess that you're sitting with something, I don't know, a panel type light, not a hard light, a diffused light of some sort, I would guess, shooting through the window. You don't want it super soft because it's emulating an outdoor light, like a, shop light type thing on the outside. So it's going to, you want it to be appealing, but you don't want it to be so soft that it doesn't look realistic. So you have a light coming through the window. To me, it looks like it's warmer, so I'm going to guess it's around 3,500 to 3,800 Kelvin because it looks like a tungsten look. Mm-hmm. And then from that, you can see here on the right side of screen, we have a pretty warm light that is pretty directional. You can see that we're getting a pretty hard shadow all the way across the frame. So I'm going to guess that you're not bouncing it. I'm going to guess that it's strictly like you're just flooding light across, and I'm going to guess you're around 3,000 Kelvin.
Okay.
I'm going to see if there's anything else that I see that maybe you're doing. I don't see anything else. So give me my grade.
What lens did I change?
Lens.
I'm using the Red Raptor VistaVision.
Okay. So this is going to be a Nisi 50.
Why do you think 50?
Because it looks like a 35 on a VistaVision.
Okay.
Yeah. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So on a VistaVision, it's a 0.93 crop.
Yeah.
So, if you're using a crop sensor, a 35 mil, whatever, it's going to be 1.5 times crop. This is a 0.93 crop. So it's actually, so probably using like a 45 mil lens technically, right?
But you're using the Athena 50.
Yep.
Okay. So I have a question.
Okay.
First of all, no. Tell me what I got right, what I got wrong.
Okay, so overall you got things right. I think the Pavo tubes are, and here's the reason I can't tell you exactly what the Kelvin was, is as well as I do, we use our eyes more than we use numbers, right? And so the Pavo tubes, they can't be controlled by an app.
Yeah.
So you're up there, you're controlling them. 100%. I know the camera was at 4,000 Kelvin. Now, the best thing about shooting raw is it really doesn't matter. I don't know what I landed on at the very end of this. But at the end of the day, I remember shooting that. Like I said, the first thing I did when I walked in, this is 6,500 Kelvin LEDs. Shop lights, right? You kill those lights and going, okay, we need some sort of little bit of an ambient light. So the first thing I did was just throw up an ambient light. We used an Amaran F22C, which has actually
now where's this? Which one?
This is the ambient light you were talking about. Okay. You'll see it if you look at my screen. We're over here. You can see a little bit of ambient light. You'll see it down here. You'll see it over here. Like all of this light needs to come from somewhere. It's not just bouncing off of those kind of things, right? And so that being said, that was just so we can see. I'm gonna be honest with you. And so once we got that up, we put the Pavo tubes up were the very first thing. Like you said, the rim light that's actually lighting the workbench. It's hitting the walls. There's always things you would do differently if you had more time. The thing is
and you weren't by yourself.
I was literally by myself setting up.
Now we should say with this, Kirk is one of our guys that we're working with training.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's not able to help at all, but it's different when you have.
But it was, and I'll explain this in a minute. Of going, okay, so like the difference of having you and maybe Kirk, which he did a great job at least trying to explain what he knew. Yeah. But I'm all over here playing grip, gaffer, DP, and director, right? And so it just because of the short time frame we had, and so I say that going, we put up these Pavo tubes. I say it's pretty evident if you look really close, you can still see the zip ties.
Yep.
Those were things that were like, hey.
Well, and that's where I said I cheated. I knew the next angle that we would go through you can definitely see the zip ties.
Yeah.
And that's how I know.
Yeah, and here's the truth is we should have taken time to cut those, blah, 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 blah. I was having Kirk hang those while I was outside setting up lights and setting up camera and setting up dolly, right? And so it just is what it is. But I can't tell you exact Kelvin on those lights because we were literally reaching up, figuring it out.
Well, my thing is they're a little bit more than just white.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm guessing they were a little bit, higher Kelvin than what your
and the
camera's
idea
sitting
is,
at.
we want the shot to look interesting. So if the rest of the shot has a warm feel to it, how do we bring a little bit of that in without making it overwhelming? I didn't want a muddy, muted shot. That's just honest. And then, so once we did that, I started, now Josh was extremely, he was, in a way silhouetted because he's being rim light more. If there was any bounce, it was coming off of the metal grate of the siding of the bench, those kind of things. So we went outside, and this is where you missed it. And so you mentioned a panel light that's a little bit softer. It was exactly opposite.
Really,
of that.
you were hard light.
I was hard light. What you said was good. Like and what I mean is going outside. I was literally looking at the light across the way, and I didn't have, it was literally 40-mile-an-hour winds outside. I can't put up a flag.
Put a panel.
I can't do that. And so I'm literally shooting this through another window in the house. And
so that's how you're creating diffusion?
I had to create, and I had to put it through a spot or a Leco or whatever projector they call it, a projector mount, right? And so I'm putting it through a projector mount, putting it through. But the hard part is and you'll see it in some of the things. You'll actually see the texture on the right here on this wall a little bit more, and that would have given it away. That was a hard light source because the difference of focus on Josh's face and the difference of focus on the wall was a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And so that's where that light's coming from. And because I couldn't knock out the other light because of 50-mile-an-hour winds, I was over there trying to put things up, and I was like,
"Welcome to Kansas."
It's brutally cold. It was freezing.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend more time out there than I have to, and so I was like, I'm going to match that light. And actually, a lot of the Kelvin choices were based off of the key light coming from a different space that's hitting Josh, and his face is a little bit warmer, like you pointed out before. And so that was overall, I think you did a really good job. And some of this too, we love color grading, and so you
can notice in the shadows you got that bluish green in the shadows, like you notice that contrast right away.
Yep.
But I knew that was.
And
I knew
there's
there was a
one
lot
thing
of that
you didn't
was
say
influenced by color.
that I thought for sure you would point out right away.
Okay. What
how did we get some of the matted look in this room?
Did you have a BPM? And it was done in camera.
Yes. I'm amazed you didn't call it out right away.
Well, now I'm curious because I'm not thinking about it.
We hazed the entire place.
Oh, see, I should have known. Yeah, that makes total sense.
And you'll see it in the next shot.
Okay. In my brain, I was like, I'm thinking.
So naturally, haze sticks
post.
out more when you're opposite of your light source, right?
Well, what's great
right now
is
we're at a
Yeah, what's great is you're not getting, and maybe why I didn't notice it right away is because you're not getting that overhazed look. It's just soft, and so in my mind that was done in post.
Well, and it's hard. I'm sure we've all been on. I love haze, but it's so easy to overhaze.
I overhaze all the time.
You have no room in post production. You're trying to artificially give contrast. It doesn't look right. Everything muddies up real fast. Like haze is awesome. Be careful with it, right? And so the goal was that it wouldn't be overhazed. But I'd also say that actually gives some of those like dirtier shadows and stuff that you're seeing underneath there.
So I have a question on composition. Okay. I know there's a reason, but I just want to get. We haven't talked about this.
Yeah.
But I want to just get like some inside Matt's head type deal. So typically on a composition in this scene, if I was looking at it, I have guesses as to why, but if I was looking at it, I would probably have had less headroom with Kirk. And I know you, so I know that everything's intentional. So when you have Kirk, pretty much his head is pretty much middle of the frame from top to bottom, right? What was your mentality of having that versus having him, his head on that upper thirds line?
Yeah, so I would also say like you don't know what's off camera, right? And so it's pretty crazy. Right in front of us right here, we have chainsaw, we have stacks, we have things that we couldn't move. And I didn't want that to be a distraction, first
Okay.
of all. So if you give less headroom, you're going to be focused on more of the foreground. And there are
Right.
some good things. Now we're looking at one frame of this shot. So when you look
Yeah.
at the entirety of it, the whole thing's moving.
Right.
And so I'm trying to make it where it looks pleasant. We're focused on the right thing. I don't want to overly light Josh. I still wanted it to be moody. And so there was, but part of that too is it has a solitude to it. And that was actually the main thing, is I wanted it to feel like, here's a guy in his big open space that, man, it almost feels like, okay, you're a little bit distant from the whole thing as we move in closer and closer, if that makes sense. So
Right.
yeah, there's actually 2 ATVs just to the right off the camera over here, and literally couldn't move. I have the camera exactly where I can put it. So we had 3 options. Like, you can put it in between the 2 ATVs, which we would knock out this cool foreground with this chain right here, which looked really cool. You can move it to the left, with that just got boring real quick, and now you're running parallel with these pieces of wood, of this reclaimed wood down here. And so, sometimes you do what you can. I didn't have access to move everything out of this shop and do all of this stuff.
Right.
So part of that is using what I can, but I also wanted that solitude feel. And so this angle just right away took off. And I right away, I use an app that I'm like, okay, do I want this 85? And we can choose the sensor I have, the 85, the 50, the 35, which one's looking at. I was real tempted to use the 35 and make it real feel, but I'm like, okay, this is.
But then you're really struggling with what else is in the
Well, I
building.
don't have time to really bring the scene in
Right.
to establish it in the amount of shots I have. And they did specifically ask, we want a very,
This is an intentional hunter. It's not, because last year
it's not fast moving.
Yeah.
It's not fast paced.
the
It's very,
video
like,
for
draw
last
you
year
in.
was year-round work. Like, it takes work year-round to be able to, not hard work, whatever. This year the theme was work smarter, not harder. We want somebody who is very intentional in everything he does, and so that means a slower moving edit. Where hard work year-round, there's a lot of intensity.
Yep.
This one, there was more, like, intentional is literally all the way through it. It's the theme they wanted to do, that which means our shots had to be more intentional.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So let's go to the next.
Before we do, I just want to
Okay.
say, like, we did set dress. We put this
Okay.
little Euro mount up here. We did the shop was extremely dirty. There were oil cans everywhere. There was stuff all over the place. So we stripped away what was distracting, so that you did focus on what.
And you built that hunting.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. That
Setting.
made it feel more hunting related. So
Okay.
that's the only other thing.
Okay, so if we go to the next one, which is the same shot, just from a different angle. Obviously, we already went over the lighting. I'm looking at it. I don't think the lighting changed. I think you probably left the lighting the same. You might have moved some stuff closer or farther away, but I think that the lighting stayed. You got it?
I'll get there eventually. I don't know what's happening right now.
Matt's iPad angle is going to look killer.
I don't know if we should cut to mine. Keep going.
It looks like the lighting all stay the same. And honestly, what I want to go to is not so much this still that we have, like this grab. I'll probably cut to the actual clip itself to show the movement. Mm-hmm. And I would say walk us. I'm noticing a few things I didn't notice in the other one.
Well, hopefully you can see that we used haze on this one.
Yeah, you can see it here in the bloom of the lights, which you can do a lot of that in post. But
You can.
I can see that it's there. Did you guys set this gimbal up on the top left frame? The hook where you put the deer. Did you guys hang that, or was that already there? You did hang that. Okay, because that screams deer hunting.
Yep.
More than the Euro to me, right?
Yeah.
And so I noticed that. Obviously, we got that bow case. And then you're using, what I'm noticing more than anything is Kirk, as you can see in the movement of the shot, the actual clip itself, Kirk is definitely working on his bow, right? Mm-hmm. He's getting the sight tuned in, whatever. But the movement that you did was very intentional, of a dolly a dolly moving, tracking movement right to left. I haven't watched the video in a while. I think it was right to left. Or were you revealing, or were you going into?
We were going from, so we're actually shooting through the ATV, and part of that was, you're working smarter, not harder, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
you have the ATV, you have the tools, you have the things, and so it's just like, so we're actually starting left, moving to right, and
Okay.
we're revealing that from the ATV so that you're seeing more and more of it.
As he's on this one, he's getting ready on this shot. I remember he's like reaching for the sight to.
Mm-hmm.
He's not really working on the sight. Obviously, it's all movie magic, and he's not actually working on my bow. But I hope not, because I didn't shoot anything with it, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I don't think any light changed. Did you change any lights? Only thing I'm seeing is it looks like, and it might just be the angle, it looks like this top roof ceiling area is better lit.
Yeah, so part of that is the angle. We did a lens change.
Yeah.
And so, but the only light I adjusted was the one outside. And you can remember how I told you, now you can actually see it's hitting the screen. Do you see that? Where like you can actually see some shapes of, tungsten light. So if you look right here,
I do.
and right here and right here, now you can start to see that light has a little bit more to it, if that makes sense. So, the best part is, man, the second I got this shot out, I was like, oh yeah, this looks great, right? And so there's a few things. I had to move the light outside a little bit further to our, camera right. And so basically, how it's hitting Josh, it makes more sense, and then I can see a little bit more of it on the window there. And the idea was to create as much bloom as possible with the nanolights, the Pavo tubes, and then we have that projector mount outside. What's fun too is you can see the cool SKB on there. All of those things are just bringing you into a hunting mindset, right?
Absolutely.
And so the set dress was a little bit more intentional, and we had to move little things around. But overall, the best part is we didn't have to do much to it. So
okay. Well, we only got about 10 minutes. Let's go to the last scene, and this is Matt's favorite scene of the whole video.
Yeah, I basically said, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to put this light in here. So.
And this was another one. I wasn't there. This was the same night they shot the other ones. So
I do want to say real quick, like, we knew that this was the only thing we could control the entire video of. What I mean that is like we really could put our time and our stamp
and that's
on
what
it.
we like to do. Like,
Yeah.
we like to have shots that are very intentional and very like shot well. But in a lot of things, like you said, you're outdoors. At most, you're going to be able to neg fill or diffuse light. At most, when you're outside shooting some certain things. And a lot of times we're doing just a lot of natural light, and we're just using light that's available, and maybe using, like I said, a neg fill or something to shape light.
Yeah.
But that's not, we like to have some shots that are just well done, right?
When
and
you
so,
can control it, do whatever you can to do so. Right?
yeah.
So.
I think I had a church thing going on that night, because this was a Sunday night that you guys did. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, let's break this one down. We only got a few minutes. I want to see if I can break this one down. And so I am seeing...
Don't overthink it.
I'm seeing 3 lights.
Okay.
And maybe 2, knowing the house. So obviously I see a light. I can't tell. On this one, I can't tell. Did you have any house lights on, or is this all artificial lit?
There are house lights on.
Okay, so I would say that inside the room, it looks pretty dark. I don't think there's any lights in there. I see this door, the sliding door, and it helps I know the house. But the sliding door, I think that's house lights. I don't think that what's lighting this right here and this right here, the edges, I think that's house.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go to the obvious light last. But what I'm also seeing is, if you look through the glass on this door, there's light in here. And I would say that has been lit separately than what our main light is doing. I think that you put a light in there, or else it's a shop light that's just on. One of the two. I can't tell. As yellow as it looks, I would almost be inclined to say that's a tungsten light that's just on. Because I don't remember what that light looks like. But that could either be a shop light or an artificial light, which means you did a really good job. If it's you lighting it, you did a really good job. The main light that I'm seeing is the obvious one, shooting through the window. And in talking, your idea, I know, was that this was going to kind of replace the sun. But me looking at it here, it looks way more like another exterior light is on super early in the morning, and that's light bleeding through from like your porch or whatever, right? That's what it looks like to me. And so the vibe that I get from this shot is like if it was me in this position of the hunter. I'm up super early. Family's not awake. I'm not wanting to turn on a bunch of lights. I have the lights that are on at night anyway. My shop light is on, and then I have a porch light on, is the vibe that I got. So if I'm going to assume your Kelvin is probably 42 to 4,500 Kelvin for camera. And I want to assume that the light that is coming through the window is sitting around 5,000. And I'm going to assume that the light through the door that's really yellow looking, I'm going to put that at 2,700 to 3,000 Kelvin. And all this is hard light. I don't think you have much diffusion, if anything. Yeah, that's my guess.
You know what light I used outside?
Either a 600 or 1,200.
Okay. So when I say don't overthink it, great job. So the first thing I did, well, and I will tell you, I had a different mindset going in. This shot looked way different. I actually loved the original way better.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember, but Spy Point came back and they wanted a morning,
darker,
super early shoot.
Yeah.
So they wanted us walking in at night. Mm-hmm. Well, we were planning on this being an evening shoot. Mm-hmm. And so the evening shoot, he was getting ready in mid-afternoon or whatever, evening, he's getting ready to go out to the stand. And when they decided they wanted that as more of a night shoot, I was like, I don't want to go reshoot this. This is the joy of shooting raw, right? And so it looked way different. I was thinking, man, we had this beautiful warm light. It looked like sun coming through. It looked great. In camera, when I say it was just like, man, we don't have to try. This looks incredible, right? Like we had to clean this room like crazy. There was stuff everywhere. There was boxes and stuff. And so we did have to make it, that we took more time doing that than even lighting it. The light outside, which you talked about, this practical back here, that actually was a practical light that was going in there, and I used that and I counterbalanced. I wanted the sun still, but if you're going, hey, if this light is back here and you can kind of see it, it looks like in the original one, it really looked like that sun was popping through there, even though it was like deeper orange, but it almost looked like maybe that sun was hitting that. Now, this is, again, the joy of shooting raw.
Yeah.
And so we turned this down. Originally, man, when I say this light looked like morning, I mean, it was just like, wow, this looked beautiful. How it was touching off of his back here. Like all of that was intentional about how much distance we put. We used the 1200X from Aperture, super fun light. And we have the different reflectors so I could control the beam angle and whatnot. But what's cool about that light is it was throwing so much ambient into that room that it's dialed down here.
Yeah.
But like that's how it came. Now, once they did that, I did have to begin in the post-production side. We created a huge vignette and some, to bring that light in because it was too much.
Early morning.
Because if you're going early morning at night shoot, that's completely different than ambient light spilling all of those things. So 100%. We had to bring that in a little bit. But I will tell you, overall, I mean, we had one big light outside, and then everything was kind of, these two working together, so we didn't have to spend as much time because we did have. I mean, we had a list of 10 shots to get that night in a matter of 3 hours, and I think we had like 4 hours of setup and
they were
move.
You had scenes in different rooms, so
Correct.
It's not like you were just setting up the same room to get 10 shots. It's a lot different.
No,
you have to tear everything down.
So we had,
and none of these rooms are really connected. I mean, this one kind of is connected to the living room area, but you still have to completely, you're shooting from outside in. The shop is completely disconnected. And the other one was in the living room, kitchen area. In this room,
we did 3 shots. In the shop, we did 4 shots. And then the other one, we did 2 or 3 shots. So that was the entire night. But it took that much time to actually set up and move this. But overall, that was this is my favorite shot. Again, wish you guys could see it in its original glory. But hey, at the end of the day, we give what the client wants. And again, it makes sense with the moving of it was cool that we were able to still use it going into, the next shot is awesome. It's like a stealth shoot where they're getting out of a car and walking in. So it makes sense.
We have like 4 minutes, but real quick, what I would say, you've alluded to it a few times. This is why on some shoots, and this is what was a higher budget shoot, and so this is where it makes sense to shoot on the red.
Yeah.
Because it does offer that flexibility. This was shot before we knew okay, so we agreed to the shoot. The client agreed to the shoot. We agreed to budget. All the things were agreed.
And we knew there was a time restriction.
And we knew that there would be, like, we knew the theme of the shoot.
Yeah.
Right? And so we knew what we needed to get. We knew that these would fit in the shoot. We didn't know exactly everything about it, but we knew that this would fit. So we also knew that there was a definite time restraint, and we didn't want to wait until really, really, really close to the deadline and then have to rush the shoot. And so you had the availability, Kirk had the availability, and you were like, why don't we just shoot this now?
Yeah.
Right? And so, yes, you shot it with the idea of it being brighter and having a daylight. Obviously that changed, but us being able to have the raw capability to where we can change the ISO, that changed everything and made it where it was completely flexible on what look we were going for. And you created a beautiful evening look. Mm-hmm. And in the same clip, without degrading anything, you created a beautiful early morning shoot.
Yeah, and
right?
and that's what's awesome about lighting and controlled lighting is you can do that. Mm-hmm. And just with a couple shifts of white balance and having that ability to shoot red. I mean, you have so much color that you can do that to this clip. And if you look at this sequence of him tying his shoe, of him doing his this jolly shot, and then him grabbing the bow and going, all of them look beautiful in both settings. And it was like, that's the beauty.
It was great.
I'm going to be honest, I couldn't have done that with our FX6s. I couldn't have done that with some of these
the
other
A1s.
things. Yeah, the A1.
We'll talk about that one in a little bit.
But anyway, you know what I'm saying? And so like and here's the best part is they literally said, we want it shot with the red because, we have that. We did the same thing with the snow shoot that we had stuff.
We don't have time, but I will link up those shots. And these were shot very bright, and we were able to make it look like night. So I'll link that right now. We really have to hop off. Sorry, guys. Super short one. We'll have a longer one next time, but we have to hop off. Customers come first. All right. See you later.